Carrie Roberts here, and I'm going to show you how to contribute to Atomic Red Team by submitting issues or pull requests. The easiest way to contribute is just to submit an issue, which gives us your ideas or issues that you found that other people could work on if they have time. So here we see on our list of issues here in the Red Canary Atomic Red Team repository on GitHub that we have issues here and an idea, a problem, a bug. If you want to contribute something to highlight an issue or an idea, you just need to be logged in. Here I am logged in with my own account to GitHub. You can create a free GitHub account, log in, go to the Atomic Red Team project, go to issues, and then new issue. From here we could submit an idea or a new test idea, talk about a problem with one of the tests or with the project, or comment on a change that's needed on the atomicredteam.io site. So for this, we just say get started if we're posting a problem. So maybe for the problem we found, there's a extra quote in command, and we could describe where it is and submit the issue. So that's the easiest way, but the most powerful way and most beneficial for the community is actually for you to make that fix yourself and submit it as a pull request. A pull request is a funny name that GitHub uses to say, hey, I have some suggested changes, here's what it looks like, and to have the maintainers take a look and approve that and have it become part of the project. And to do that, you have to submit a pull request. So there's some information about how we would like contributions made over here on the Atomic Red Team wiki page. There's a section on contributing here. So click on contributing, and lots of good information here, including a link to this video. I'll be showing you how to create simple pull requests here. So let's say we go to the Atomic Red Team project and we go into our Atomics folder, which is our library of scripted cyber attacks. And we're looking in T1003. We're going to take a look at the markdown file. There's always a markdown and a YAML file in each of the technique number folders. The YAML file is the official source of information. The markdown is just an easy to read version of that YAML file. Let's take a quick look at the YAML file. We'll look at this first test, gsec dump. If we take a close look at the description, we actually see a typo. You should see domain usernames following by should be followed by 232 character hashes. The S shouldn't be here. So we'll do a quick PR or pull request to make that change. So since I'm logged here into GitHub, I can go into this T1003.yaml file. We never make changes to the markdown files because those get auto-generated from the YAML files. So we'll back up a step, and to make this change, we're going to go to the YAML version, and we're going to click the pencil button to let us edit this file. So we click edit, and we find our typo here, which is following, should be followed. So we change that, and we get rid of the S character. And then we just scroll to the bottom and make a little description here. We'll just say typo fix. It's really easy. Leave this on the default, which is create a new branch and propose changes. This brings us to the pull request screen where we can add more details. And since this is just a typo fix, I'm going to erase the details and just say this is a typo fix. Before I click create pull request, I'll scroll down and see what I'm about to propose. It looks like I'm changing following to followed and characters to character. That's what I wanted to do. There's nothing extra that got in there that I didn't mean to make part of this pull request. And then I click create pull request. Once I do that, it shows me my pull request. It says some checks haven't completed running. So once you submit a pull request, there's some automation that looks at your pull request. For example, if you added a new atomic test, it would double check that you have the right YAML elements and that the spacing is correct and readable and everything. So this takes a minute to process, but ultimately it will turn green if everything looks good, or it may turn red, and there'll be a link over here to details so you can find out what's broken. Here it says all checks have passed, so we're good to go. And we just see that our PR sits here with a red X saying review required. So now we've done everything we can do. We've submitted our proposed change. We know that it passes the automated checks. Now we need to wait for a maintainer to approve it and merge it into the main repository. We can always come back to the Atomic Red Team project and click on pull requests to see our pull requests. There's currently 2 pull requests here. The one that was submitted 2 days ago by Jesse, and then the one we just submitted right now, the typo fix. We can go back into the typo fix and we can see our description, everything we did before, and over here on the Files Change tab, we can see that view, that nice view that shows us what's been added and removed. And for maintainers, they can come in here and they can choose to approve and merge this change. Back to pull request. When you click on this pull request tab, it automatically sets a filter to only open pull requests or PRs. So once your PR is closed or merged, you'll need to go, you can click here on closed. And when we go to closed, we see the list of all pull requests that have been contributed. We can even go back into some of these old ones and say, I wonder what this update to T1134 was. And we can go here, we can see who submitted it, see the description. We can go over to files changed and quickly see that for this update, somebody added this new atomic test for WinPone to T1134002. So it's very good change tracking, and we can find out who changed what and when. In addition, we can go over to Atomic Red Team Slack channel. You can join that. There's a link at the bottom of the wiki to join the Slack channel. And besides this general channel, there's an Atomic Git channel, which gets automated messages every time a pull request is added or merged or approved or an issue is added. So here we see that I just opened a pull request for a typo fix, and it's got a link to it there. So this is a great way to keep an eye on what's changing within Atomic Red Team. Okay, so that was a simple typo fix. Let's look at adding a new atomic test. For this, we need to come up with the YAML for our new atomic test. I'll open up, let's open up our C Atomic Red Team folder, which is our default installation folder, Atomic Red Team Atomics, T1003. Let's say we wanted to add a new test to T1003. To do this, again, YAML is not super fun to read, but each of the tests start with this dash name attribute and gives it a name. So if we want to kind of do the YAML maybe the hard way, we could copy an existing test, and we could come down here and we could paste it in. And we could say new sample test. The GUIDs generated by the scripts in GitHub and assigned when the PR is merged, so you don't need to contribute that, so we can erase that. I'm going to leave all the commands the same because you get the idea that you could just fill this out with a different description, different commands to manually create your YAML. So let's save this and go over and use our execution framework, invoke atomic test T1003, and we'll just show details brief to show the test. And here we have our new test, new sample test. So we could take this new test that we have and just paste it onto the bottom. Instead of fixing the typo, we could go to the end of our file and paste in a new atomic test. But working with YAML manually is a little frustrating because just a single white space character can mess up our YAML. For example, if when we pasted this in, if we would have pasted in, Notepad automatically indents here. So if we had accidentally pasted that in like this, where we have this extra space here, that's going to break our YAML. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file, just show you what happens when YAML gets broken. And we'll try to list the details, and now it won't even list the details. It says exception calling load with one argument, couldn't find expected key. If you've played with YAML, you'll get used to seeing this because it's so easy to mess up the spacing in the YAML. Everything has to be exactly so. So to make this easier, Invoke Atomic Red Team comes with a form that you can fill out, a web form. So if you type start atomic GUI, The first time you run this, it will take a little longer because it has to install some things, but it'll bring up a form on your local host that you can fill out to generate the atomic. And so that's a lot easier than remembering what the name of YAML fields are and what the spacing is supposed to be. Also, over on the Invoke Atomic Red Team GitHub, there's a nice wiki page. One of the elements on the wiki page here is the atomic GUI. So you can learn more about the atomic GUI there. Let's create our new test using this GUI. So my new test from atomic GUI. Sample test. We'll say it's for Windows. For the attack commands, we'll just echo hi from the command line, make it really simple. Check this box if it requires elevation. We'll say we're doing command prompt, no cleanup commands. So now we can generate test definition YAML. There, we have all our YAML here, and we didn't have to remember what the elements are called or what the indentation is. We can copy that and paste that into our YAML. Instead of the sample test that's broken here, we're going to paste in the new one we made from the GUI, and we'll show the brief details. And now we see your new atomic test from the atomic GUI. So everything looks good. Let's just make this example a little more involved so we can see how to do more complex things. We'll replace the message here instead of hi with a variable. So we'll use hashtag squiggly braces and give our variable name of MSG for message. And we'll add an input argument that lets users specify the message they want to echo to the screen. So input argument name is message, and the description is message to echo to screen. The default value is, this is the default message, and it's a string. Now when we generate test definition YAML, we've got this section for input arguments that makes it configurable. We'll copy that and we'll replace our simple test here with one with input arguments and save that file. Now if we go over here, we still see our test number 4 is our echo test. So if we run it, we see this is the default message, or we could run it and say prompt for input args, and it could say what's the message, say my custom message, and then it echoes my custom message. Obviously not a good attack simulation, but it's a good demonstration of how to use the GUI and to create new atomic structures. So we have this great atomic test that we want to contribute. So we can contribute this with a pull request, just like we did the typo. We'll copy this out and we'll go over into Atomic Red Team. We just need to go into the YAML file we want to add this test to. So T1003 for this example. We're going to go into the YAML file. We're going to hit the little pencil to edit the file. We'll go to the end of the file. And just make sure we're indented all the way to the left, and we paste in our new test. I'm going to say sample PR test, and again leave the default, create a new branch, propose changes, and we can fill this out. We could say what this test does, what systems we tested it on, any issues we know of. We don't need to fill out for this example. We scroll down and we check that the only change is what we expect. We see one change to T1003, which is adding this new test. That's exactly what we expect. And we're going to create the pull request. So let's go back to our list of pull requests. We've got the one from a couple days ago, our typo fix, and then our sample PR. All of this was really easy to do from the web interface, but we were only editing files that already exist. So we fixed a typo on an existing file, we added an atomic test to an existing file. But if you happen to be adding a new test to a technique that doesn't currently have a folder, so we need a folder created, we need a YAML file created, there's a few extra steps we have to do to add files. Or maybe The folder is already created, but we want to add a batch file to the source directory. So inside of each technique folder, we can have a bin for binary files or a source for human readable files, supporting files to go with our test. So if we need to add that, we'll have to do it in this little different way, which is we have to do it from our own fork of the Red Canary Atomic Red Team project. So for this, if you haven't already forked the repository, haven't already contributed to the project and automatically got it forked, you'll need to click fork. When I click fork, it says no more forks can be created. These forks already exist. So I already have a fork, so I can go over to my fork. And up here we see my username, Atomic Red Team. It says forked from Red Canary Atomic Red Team. So these two projects are related. GitHub knows that my version of Atomic Red Team originally came from Red Canary's version. And so it's telling me some helpful stuff. It says my master branch, here I am on the master branch, is 268 commits behind Red Canary. So there's been 260 updates to Red Canary since I forked this, or since I last updated my master branch. So the first thing we want to do before we create a pull request is get caught up. We want our copy, our fork of Atomic Red Team to match the upstream repository, the main, so that what we're adding, it looks like what the existing file is. So we're going to go with this fetch upstream. And we're just going to say fetch and merge, and that should update, and so that our master branch is not behind. Now it says this branch is up to date with Red Canary's Atomic Red Team master. So that's a good idea to do to avoid conflicts where you're changing some really old version of the file. Also, a good thing to do is to create a branch for each change you're going to make, so you can keep your changes separate. And so if one pull request gets approved and another one doesn't, it doesn't convolute your PRs to where you got multiple features in the same branch, some approved and some not approved. So we're going to create a new branch. For this example we're going to do here is we're going to add a new batch file to a source folder that needs to be created. So the source folder doesn't exist yet, and the batch file doesn't exist yet, and we want to upload a batch file. So we'll call this source creation for the branch name. So we type in source creation and we say create branch from master. And we always want to do our branches from master. Okay, so we're going to go into the atomics folder, into T1003. This doesn't currently have a source or bin directory. They're optional, and they're only there if the supporting files are needed. So for this, we need to go to add a file. And if we uploaded a file, it would get added right to this directory. And we want to put it in the source directory. So we're actually going to go create a new file. And here's where we can kind of trick it into creating that folder for us. So we can say source and then slash. So now it's going to create that source directory. And then the name of the file we're going to want to upload, which I think I called it T1003.bat. So I have this sample bat file here. I'm just going to give it the same name of the file that I want, T1003.bat, and just leave it blank just to get the initial file created. And I leave the default here, create T1003. Now the default, since we're in our own repository, CLR 2 of 8 instead of Red Canaries, is actually commit directly to the branch instead of create a new branch. And this is because we have write access to our own repository, our fork of the repository, but we don't have write access to the main Red Canary repository. So leave the default, commit directly to our new branch, commit the new file. Okay, so now we have a new file called T1003.bat, but it's just an empty blank file. So now that we have our source folder created, we could upload a file. And I can just drag this here, T1003.bat, and commit directly to the branch. And then it prompts us and says, hey, I noticed some changes to this branch. Maybe you want to create a pull request. This doesn't always pop up, so I'm just going to show you how to do it here. If that doesn't pop up, you can go to this contribute link and click on the down arrow and say open a pull request. So we put that file in source folder, and we can fill out the details. Well, this is just a test for our PR. Before we click create pull request, we'll go down and see what changes. It looks like we're adding a source/t1003.bat, just a simple bat file. That looks good, so we create pull request. Again, we're running some checks, and then it will wait for a review. So we could go to pull requests, and we got the little orange dot because our automation checks are running. These ones have green check marks because they're good to go. So we've got our typo fix, we got our add a new test to an existing file, and here we created a new bat file in a new folder, and we had to do that over from our own fork. Now we'll do one more, and which shows us how to create a new T number folder with a new YAML file for a brand new, the first atomic within a given technique number. So for this, we'll go back to my own repository, CLR 208, and I want to switch back, make sure I'm back on the master branch, which I am now, and before I branch again. Otherwise, my new PR would contain my new atomic and that source bat file, and I want those two to be kept separate. So I'm gonna create a new branch, and for this example PR, I'm gonna create a new technique folder called T000, not really a technique number, but we'll create this branch. And then from this branch, we're going to go into the atomics folder, and we're going to say add a file, create a new file, and we know we need the folder T000, and whoops, and we need T00.yaml as well. And we could either do like we did with the batch file, upload this blank document, create this blank document and then upload the actual T00 YAML, or we could just paste our YAML in here, T00. So if we go and find that sample test we did, we could paste that in here. So now we have the sample test, but each technique number YAML has a little header at the top before it lists the atomic test. So we're going to need this little header. So this, we would update it with our technique number and whatever MITRE calls this technique, but this is just an example sample technique for the PR. And that looks good. I'm actually going to purposefully break this YAML by putting an extra space in before MSG on line 10, just so I can show you what that looks like when your build fails. Okay, so we're going to commit to our new branch. And now this isn't prompting us to submit the PR. Let's go back to our main repo here. Now it's prompting us, but in case it doesn't, we can use this contribute button to open a pull request. And this is creating T003.yaml with new sample test. And I could fill this out more if this was a real example. And it looks like we're adding T00.yaml to the T000 folder with this stuff. Looks good. Let's create the pull request. And this time we actually expect the automated checks to fail. And they didn't. That was unexpected. We can actually edit this file here. I wonder if the checks don't check the input args that well, let's go ahead and put an extra space before the name of the test to see if it complains about that. And commit the changes, and let's watch that build again. Okay, so some checks were not successful. And it looks like the validate atomics check failed because we got a little red X here, so we could go to details. And if we expand this, there's one failure, so it's not super convenient, but you look through here, we know it's going to be up near the file we changed, T1003, so we scroll up, and it says did not find expected dash. So it's not super helpful, but it's saying I was expecting to find like dash name and I don't find it, all because of that space. So we don't need to go close the PR or anything. We can just keep editing the PR here. So we go over to files changed. So we say edit this file. And we can keep changing it until we ultimately get things to work. We could add other files and everything. Until the PR is merged, we can keep changing it. So we go in here and we take the space out to fix our YAML. And we could say fix space. And now it's going to pass that check. All checks have passed, waiting for review. So now we look at our pull request. We see everything we've done. Simple typo fix, add a test to an existing YAML file, add a new bat file to a new source folder in one of the techniques, and create a whole new technique folder with a technique YAML with its header. I hope this helps you out with getting started with contributing to Atomic Red Team.